Have you ever felt like you've done everything you've prayed with all your heart, kept believing without giving up, even continued to worship through tears, yet nothing seems to change? You've waited, you've hoped, you've followed God's leading with everything you had, and still the doors remain closed. You look around and quietly wonder, did I miss something? Did I do something that made God stop listening? If that's how you feel, I want you to know this. You are not alone. I've been there too. And the fact that you're here, reading this right now, is not an accident. Out of the thousands of things you could be scrolling through today, you're reading these words. I truly believe that's no coincidence. This is a divine appointment, a moment, intentionally placed between you, me, and the one who is still quietly writing your story, even when you don't feel it. I don't write these words from a mountaintop, with everything settled and behind me. I write from a place you might know all too well, the place of sleepless nights, of mornings when prayer feels empty, of wondering if you should still keep believing. Maybe you've also been like me, asking silent questions you're afraid to say out loud because they might sound like doubt. But God is not offended by honesty. He is not shaken by questions like, "Why is it taking so long, Lord?" Or, "Did I do something wrong?" Or, "Are you still there?" He sees it all, and he stays. Silence is not rejection. It is part of the process. And this process, though it feels slow, is doing the deepest work inside your soul. We live in a world of speed, everything fast, everything expected to yield quick and visible results. We grasp at other people's success and assume we're falling behind. But listen, God is not bound to your clock. He's never in a hurry, but he's never late either. He is the one who holds time itself, and he has never missed a moment. The only thing he won't do is move according to our anxious schedules. And while that confuses us, it's actually good news, because if God responded to every fearful timeline, every miracle would arrive before it was fully formed. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. You are not being left behind. You are being held back for something far greater than you can imagine. I know, these words may sound hollow if you're sitting in the dark, when you don't see a single step forward, when every prayer feels like it hits the ceiling and falls back down. The promise that God has a good plan can sound distant, but stay with me just a little longer. Let me walk with you through the rest of this prayer. Don't close your heart. Don't walk away. There is something waiting for you at the end of this journey. Not a formula to make everything change in an instant, but a change that begins inside of you. A peace that surpasses understanding. A gentle whisper from heaven that says, you are still being held, still being seen, and still being loved. Let these words be a quiet chair where your soul can sit down and rest. No need to say the right thing. No need to pretend you're strong. Just be here as you are, a heart trying to believe in the middle of the dark. If you're still here, thank you for staying. That says more than you realize. It means you haven't given up. And sometimes, faith isn't a loud declaration. It's a quiet breath that still whispers, I believe. Now, I want you to hear this. Delay is not denial. It may sound familiar, but if you let it sink deeper, it can change how you see your entire journey. God has not rejected you. He is shaping you for something you can't yet see. The delay in his promise isn't because you haven't done enough or aren't worthy. It's because something greater is being prepared both in you and around you. Timing is an inseparable part of every miracle. And sometimes, God holds you back not because you're off course, but because he's aligning you with a promise that is coming in the right place, through the right people, at the right time. Habakkuk 2-3 says the vision waits for an appointed time. It doesn't say the vision comes according to your schedule. It says, it will come and will not delay. That might sound contradictory, but it's actually reassurance. What feels like delay to us is not delay in heaven's eyes. We confuse silence with abandonment, but God's silence is often the holiest space of all the space, where he deepens faith, softens hearts, and expands the soul to hold what's coming. Some promises are too big to be delivered in a rush. Like unripe fruit, if picked too early, they lack sweetness and can even make you sick. There are prayers that, if answered too soon, would not be blessings. When God says not yet, it's mercy. Not because you're not good enough, but because He is too good to give you something not ready to bless you fully. I know this isn't easy to hear when you're watching others receive the very thing you're still praying for. A friend's wedding, someone's ministry taking off, another person's healing, a baby being born. While you're still waiting without a sign of hope, you're not jealous. You're just quietly asking, "What about me, Lord?" And that feeling doesn't make you faithless. It makes you human. But I beg you, don't let the feeling of being overlooked push you out of the place of waiting. You haven't been forgotten. You've been planted deeper. Delay is not a sign of failure. It is sacred ground where the seed of faith is taking root. And when the season is right, it will rise on time, not a second too late. God does not work under pressure. He works on purpose. And when He moves, nothing can stop it. Romans 8:25 says that if we hope for what we do not yet see, we must wait for it with patience and confidence. Not patience because we have no other choice, but the kind of patience that springs from trust. Trust that God knows more than we do. That kind of waiting is not passive. It's an act of faith. It's waking up each morning and still praying as if the answer is on its way. It's refusing to let doubt define your identity. It's saying, even though I don't see anything change today, I will stand firm because I know my Father is working even when my eyes see nothing. You may not realize it, but in this season of waiting, your soul is becoming resilient. You're learning not to tie your worth to outcomes. You're growing in ways only time and God's silence can produce. You are being prepared, not punished. That's a big difference, and if you believe it, it will change how you walk through this season. You are not being ignored, you are being shaped. You are not being held back because you're lacking. You are being held back to be released into something greater than you can carry right now. And I know you may be tired, but please, don't let go. The delay has a purpose. Something is being formed, and soon you will look back on this season and realize it wasn't wasted time. It was holy ground. And right here, the miracle had already begun. And when you begin to understand that delay is part of the plan, something deeper begins to happen too. You stop seeing pressure as the enemy. You start to realize that maybe pressure is doing something comfort never could. Maybe it didn't come to crush you, but to shape you from the inside, in places no one else sees. We often think success comes from external breakthroughs, but God knows that what lasts always begins with roots, and roots never grow on the surface. They grow in the dark, in silence, in places where no applause is heard, no recognition is given, where it's just you and God and pressure. James 1-3-4 says that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and endurance, when it finishes its work, will leave you complete, lacking nothing. Pause there. Complete. Not perfect, not flawless, but whole, strong enough, steady enough, mature enough to carry the promise when it comes. We often pray for God to open doors, but if we're honest, He may be more focused on expanding your heart first. Maybe your ability is ready, but your inner strength is not. And in His love, God will never take you somewhere your soul cannot stand. Some promises are so heavy that if they come at the wrong time, they'll crush you instead of lift you, so He builds you from within. While you're praying for things to change on the outside, He's laying a foundation on the inside where you can't see it, but He's missing nothing. I know what it feels like to be tested. I know the weight of days that feel too heavy, the moments you wonder if you're failing when in reality, you're being forged. Not all pressure comes from the enemy. Some pressure is God permitted because He knows pressure builds strength, while prolonged comfort builds dependency. Have you ever noticed that your most intense seasons are also the ones where you prayed most honestly, listened most carefully, and grew the fastest? Pressure makes you crave God more, and that, as exhausting as it is grace. Sometimes, God doesn't change the circumstance because He's using that very circumstance to change you. I used to think faith was the ability to move everything, but later I learned true faith is when nothing moves, and you still believe God is working. You still worship when your prayer isn't answered. You still sow seeds when you see no harvest. You still keep your heart upright, even when every emotion screams to give up. That is real faith. That is what pressure is forming in you. And God cherishes that kind of faith more than anything you could ever build with your own strength. Maybe you're in a season where everything is delayed, every answer is silent, and every dream feels frozen. But hear this, you are not lost. You are in training, and what you're learning now will be your weapon in the next season. Pressure also exposes cracks, not to shame you, but to show you where healing is needed. Sometimes, the delay isn't God testing you, it's Him healing you. You think you're waiting on the promise, but God is waiting on your heart to soften. Maybe He's touching the control you don't want to release, or the identity you've placed in outcomes instead of in Him. And if that's true, then the waiting is not punishment, it's mercy. It's God saying, I love you too much to give you this before you're ready to carry it with grace instead of fear. You may feel like you're at rock bottom, but God sees you being poured into a foundation. Every disappointment you carry, every not yet, every closed door is shaping you. And God doesn't waste anything. No pain is pointless. No waiting season is just a trial for trial's sake. All of it has purpose. And that purpose is not just to prepare you to receive, it's to shape who you become. God doesn't just care about what you'll do. He cares about who you are becoming in the process. He doesn't build temporary shelters. He builds temples. And you are one of them. And when you begin to see pressure as a tool that builds you from the inside, you also start to recognize a deeper truth. Sometimes, prayer doesn't change your circumstances, it changes you. Maybe you've asked God to intervene, to reverse, to open a way. But instead of shifting the situation, He quietly shifts your heart. And though that may not be what you hoped for at first, it turns out to be one of the holiest gifts He could ever give. Because if all you seek is an answer, you might miss the encounter. But if you seek Him, you'll find both His presence and a peace that surpasses understanding. Maybe you came to God hoping for something to happen, but you stayed because you discovered that His presence is more valuable than any outcome. That's when faith begins to mature. Not when you measure God's love by what you receive, but by how near He feels, even when He is silent. In long seasons without change, you begin to pray not to alter your situation, but to expand your soul. You start sitting in His presence, not because you need an answer, but because it's the only place you still feel alive. There are mornings when you have no words, just a sigh. And in that sigh, you realize God is still listening. Deep faith isn't built through quickly answered prayers. It grows in the prayers that feel forgotten, but you keep praying anyway. You keep believing. You keep showing up. That quiet consistency may be unseen by the world, but heaven records it all. Every time you choose to trust instead of rebel, to pray instead of walk away, something inside you is changing. Not so you'll be more worthy, but so you'll become more like the one you're speaking with. And that is the true miracle, not when prayer changes the outcome, but when it transforms the person. Maybe you ask God to open a door, but instead, He's opening something deeper: surrender. You lay down your timeline. You let go of your deadlines. You come to terms with the truth that you don't need to know every step to take the next one. And in that place, you begin to live lighter, no longer striving to understand, to control, or to predict. You begin to pray, not like someone demanding, but like someone trusting. You stop asking, when, and begin to say, even if not yet, I'm still here. The strange thing is, when you release your need for an answer, you receive what you need most: peace. Not peace that comes when everything is calm, but peace that says no matter what happens, you won't face it alone. And then something else shifts. You start to pray not just for yourself. When you linger in God's presence long enough, your heart softens toward others. You begin to carry their names in your prayers. You stand in the gap for those who can no longer pray for themselves. You cry the tears they can't cry. And those prayers, quiet and unseen, are a sacred form of love. They don't need to be dramatic. They don't need to be acknowledged. You simply intercede because you understand the pain of waiting, and you don't want anyone to carry it alone. Maybe you're reading this while praying for a child, a friend, someone you deeply love. Know this: God hears even the prayers you don't speak, the hopes you only dare to hold silently in your heart. And when you pray with love like that, He does not turn away. Sometimes, the biggest shift isn't the circumstance or someone else. It's the way you see life. You begin to recognize God's presence in the smallest things. A song that soothes your spirit, a message at just the right time, a ray of morning light, reminding you you're still alive. The change isn't loud. It comes like breath, gentle, but real. And then you begin to feel grateful for the waiting season. Not because it's easy, but because it has created something in you that ease never could. A faith no longer tied to outcomes, a heart no longer shaken by timelines, a quiet strength that doesn't need to prove itself. And from that place, prayer becomes a relationship, not just a way to get what you want, but the pathway to draw closer to the one who loves you most. If you're in a season like that, I don't have a formula to speed up time, but I do have this for you to hold on to. You are not drifting aimlessly. You are being shaped by the hands of the Creator. And when He's done, you won't just receive what you've been waiting for. You'll become someone who can carry it with grace and faithfulness. You may still be waiting, but you're not who you were at the beginning. And yes, that is already the first miracle. And if you're still here, still listening, still waiting, still believing, then I want you to know this: you are not forgotten, not by God, and not by those walking the journey of faith beside you. You may be in a season where no one truly understands the weight you're carrying, but the truth is there are more people like you than you think. We are not in a race to see who arrives first. We are walking one step at a time, sometimes trembling, sometimes exhausted, but never alone. You are seen by God and by a quiet community of hearts, still waiting, still praying, still hoping. In a world full of comparison and hurry, it's easy to believe you've been left behind. But the truth is, God doesn't build on the world's timeline. He doesn't build fast. He builds strong. You are not forgotten. You are being held back to be prepared for something deeper, something stronger, something that will last. He's not just planning something good for you. He's preparing you to carry it when it comes. Don't measure God's presence by the speed of results. Don't let the silence make you question His love. God is still working, and what He's building in you isn't only for you, it's so you can become a source of strength for others when it's their turn to wait. You are being equipped not only to receive blessing, but to become a blessing. The patience you are learning today will be a light for someone lost tomorrow. The faith you hold on to now will become the shelter for someone on the edge of giving up. And the tears you don't speak of, the prayers you whisper in the night, God is using them to write a story far greater than your own. Ecclesiastes 3:11 reminds us that God makes everything beautiful in its time. Not in a convenient time, not in a time that makes sense to us, but in the perfect time, from an eternal point of view. You may not see the full picture yet, but you are in it. What feels like a mess to you, He is weaving into something precious. No chapter of your life is meaningless. No silence is empty. Even this waiting, it's teaching you how to love, how to trust, and how to belong. You are not just waiting to receive something. You are being transformed into someone whose very presence becomes a miracle to others. And this isn't just about you. It's a holy reminder that all of us are in this together. Some are just beginning. Some have weathered many storms. Some are in the middle of the night of faith, but we are walking side by side. We are the body. When one person hurts, we all feel it. When one person waits, the rest of us can pray, encourage, and remind each other that this waiting is not in vain. If your faith feels weak today, lean on the faith of someone next to you. If you still have a flicker of hope, share it. Your testimony doesn't have to be a finished story, it just has to say that you're still believing. And that alone may be enough to keep someone else from falling. Isaiah 60:22 promises, "When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen." Not you, not your striving, not because you did everything right, but because He is faithful. You don't have to run to chase a miracle. You only need to hold your position. You don't have to beg the heavens to open. You just need to keep your heart soft, steady, and faithful. And when the moment comes, you won't have to wonder. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because God's presence will be so undeniable that you'll know it was Him, not coincidence. So if you're in a season of waiting, remember that you are being held. And if you're too tired to keep believing, then we, your brothers and sisters in faith, will believe for you today. We'll pray when you're silent. We'll remind you that you are still worthy, even when you feel empty. We won't let you wait alone, and one day, you'll do the same for someone else. Because in the kingdom of God, no one waits alone. We are a community forged by hope, by tears, by faith that grows one day at a time. And each one of us will see it when God knows we're ready.